when it comes to writing, then it's really important to understand why you're writing, the point of what you're writing for, and who you're writing for. What I recommend to a lot of people, including some current coaching clients you might be even watching right now, is to begin with something very small. So there's something called a vignette, it's very French, where it's basically a scene. Well, what's a scene? A scene might be you're walking into a room and you're talking with your parents, and your book might be about being a child. So you write out that scene, and it might be 100 words, might be 500 words. Once you write out that scene, you start to get a flavor of the setting and who you're speaking to and the voice. You might hear writers talking about the voice a lot, not the TV show, but like the writer voice, the voice of the narrator. If you read any of my books, each of those books has a voice. There's certain language. Is there slang being used? Is there cursing involved? Is it from a grad school level, or is it more from a newspaper 6th, 7th, 8th grade level? What's the energy of the words? How is the pacing? Are there a lot of quotes? All those things are the voice. Once you do vignette or something small, even if you want to publish a blog post, or if you're like me and you want to go ahead and publish your work as like a journalist, doing a small essay, that's a great place to start. Some of my best sellers, including Untitled Entrepreneur, began as like columns. I have a column with Inc. magazine. A lot of those ideas originated. It was almost like a workshop when I was doing the column with Inc. So you'll see some of that history if you go to inc.com/author/Brown Damon, and you see the history of, there's like 600 columns. So you don't have to go through all of them. But if you check out the history there, you'll see some of the origins of the different things that I'm working on. And that's how you can start writing, just by starting small. You don't say, I'm going to write a 50,000 word book, and then just start writing 50,000 words. What I would recommend is starting with something that's 500 words, even something that's 50 words that breaks it down. Oh, looks like I got a tech issue. I'll be right back in a second. I need to work on my Jeopardy music. Hold on one second. I would start singing, but as I threaten people, people do not want me at karaoke, so I will skip the singing. There we go. Now we're back in business. The last live episode of the stream, and my tech is like, yo, you've been using us every single day. We're going to shut down now. I don't know what you're doing. Now, I'm a professional writer. I got 2 journalism degrees under my belt. So my perspective is a little bit different because I've been writing literally my whole life. If you're new to writing, though, there are excellent books that will help you on your way. I got my master's in magazine publishing. There's so many writing books that were given to me and required. These 3 or 4 I'm going to recommend are the creme de la creme. We're going all French today. Creme de la creme. If you're like, Damon, I couldn't write my way out of a paper bag the same way that I talk about I can barely draw. This is one of those things. First recommendation, Bird by Bird. Anne Lamott, classic. I saw her speak at TED probably about 6-7 years ago. But this book, I think it's 25th anniversary. That tells you how far back this book goes. This book was well before I was even in grad school. So that was a while ago. Fantastic book. It talks about the act of writing, and the analogy here when they talk about Bird by Bird. I might get the story a little bit off, but I think you'll get the point, is that her little brother waited till the last minute to do a biology project where he had to map out all the different birds, I believe in this neighborhood or in a certain area. And it was the last night. I've been there before, where you procrastinate and suddenly you have to do an all-nighter. And he was having a hard time. And I believe it was her dad had said, just go bird by bird. It becomes this beautiful metaphor, not even analogy, this beautiful metaphor of saying, if you're gonna write a 50,000 word manuscript, you call it a manuscript before it becomes a book. If you're gonna write a 50,000 word manuscript, then you can't just write 50,000 words. You start with 1 word, and then it becomes 2, and then it becomes a sentence, and then it becomes a paragraph, and then it becomes a page, etc., etc. Becomes a scene, becomes a chapter. And then before you know it, you have a chapter done. And then you have a handful of chapters. And then, wow, you have a whole section done. You have a whole part done. You might even have a whole book done. That's what Bird by Bird is about. Highly recommended. Good stuff. Good stuff. Classic, classic, classic. Next classic, The War of Art. Shout out to Stephen Pressfield. I love you. I love your work. I've had a chance to connect with him over the years. He even endorsed the new book, The Complete Bring Your Worth Collection. So thank you, wherever I put the book. I was humbled to even ask and connect with him to send a copy of the book, but he's considered a mammoth within our sphere. So thank you, Steve, for everything. Fantastic book. This is what, for me, put his name on the map. It is a tiny book. I was also actively reading it. I'm not sure where it is, but it's super, super small. Maybe like 150 words. That might give some hope if you're intimidated by writing all these things. But it's a fantastic book. What it talks about is us finding the motivation to complete the thing that we know we're meant to complete. Sound familiar? That's my energy with Bring Your Worth, the book, as well as the show. That's my energy with Bites as Entrepreneur. That's my energy with Build From Now and all the books that are in the Complete Bring Your Worth collection. He wants to get you motivated to get to where you need to be. What I love about this book is that he also talks about his own journey and how it took him many, many years, because he knew he was a creative. He knew he had a particular story to tell, and he was bobbing and weaving, as you say, and he was avoiding everything but putting his behind down behind the typewriter and typing. And once he did, this is his first major book, and he knocked it out the park. I want to say this book is about 30 years old now. And if you speak to a lot of writers, particularly professional writers, they know this book. They love this book. It's dog-eared. And it's usually floating somewhere around their office. Highly recommend it. Probably my favorite recommendation for getting motivation as you start your writing journey. One of the last book recommendations would be The Elements of Style by Strunk and White. This is a classic. If you have any background with journalism or editing, this is on your desk all the time. It gives simple ways to make your writing clean. And good writing is clean. There's exceptions, like shout out to Tom Wolfe and other folks who do these sentences that are literally a page long. I've attempted some of them. Sorry, some of y'all that have been subjected to them. But the best writing is often clean and simple. This tells you how to untangle your writing and make it a lot clearer. That's all I have to say about that. It's a fantastic book. One bonus book, which I forgot to mention in the earlier segment, is, excuse me, How to Be Your Own Literary Agent by Richard Curtis. Shout out to Richard Curtis. He's fantastic. He is a former agent, and he talks about how you can represent your own book. Make sure y'all can see it. Those bars are huge. Make sure y'all can see it. Fantastic book. Also brown, dog-eared. And I learned a lot. I've actually represented some of my own books with the big publishers. And one of the reasons why some of those turned out well and still give me royalties to this day was the advice that Richard gave. So fantastic on him. Hope he's doing wonderful. Oh, and I did have Strunk and White. This copy is from grad school. I'm not gonna tell you how old this copy is. Like I told you, it's small, it's simple, it's concise, it's elements of style. Required for every good writer, I believe. All right, so if y'all that are professional writers like myself, or y'all that are trying to figure out how you're writing and are just starting, what are your favorite tips as far as how to start writing? Throw them in the comments. I'd love to hear some of your other perspectives. Again, my bias is strong because I've always been in journalism, but I love to hear the fiction take and all these different perspectives that, frankly, I don't have. So I love to hear it. Throw something in the comments if you're involved in the writing community.